Briarton here with an update for you on Hurricane Idalia. As you can see from the latest radar imagery here from Tampa, Florida, this Category 2 storm remains off the Gulf Coast of Florida, expected to make landfall on Wednesday morning. We'll show you that forecast cone in just a moment, but let's look right now at the latest satellite imagery, starting with that visibility and then looking more here at some IR as the sun goes down. You can start to see this Category 2 storm has that very defined eye wall. You can see it right there at the center of your screen. Also of note, some of those really tall cloud tops, those echo tops, beginning to bubble up as the storm continues to strengthen over the very warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico. So we're looking at a landfall here Wednesday morning along the Big Bend of Florida, where we have hurricane warnings all up. The official forecast, still from the National Hurricane Center, does give this storm a chance of developing into a Category 3 storm, making it a major hurricane. Whether it's a strong Category 2 or a lower end Category 3, the impacts are going to be the same for the folks living along Florida, with a forecast for this maintaining at least Category 1 hurricane strength as it makes its way into Georgia on Wednesday and into South Carolina as we begin to turn the clock then into Thursday. We now have tropical storm warnings up and down the coast of South Carolina into portions of the North Carolina coast near Wilmington, and then we have extending further northward along the Outer Banks some tropical storm watches as we look further ahead to the impacts we could see from the storm on Thursday. Again, some of the latest computer model guidance here. You've seen spaghetti models for paths. This is kind of a spaghetti model for intensity, if you will. So we could skirt up to that Category 3 line before making landfall in Florida on Wednesday, maintaining again that Category 1 strength, or at least a very strong tropical storm strength as we push through Georgia and South Carolina. And I think that'll be important for our hometown audience to remember. So when can we expect to see some of those tropical storm force winds, those 39-mile-per-hour winds, move into the Carolinas? Probably Wednesday at about 2 o'clock, as you can see here, moving towards that South Carolina, North Carolina border in Myrtle Beach, say 8 p.m. on Wednesday. And then obviously if you're in North Carolina, they come a little bit later Wednesday night into early Thursday morning. The winds, chances of seeing those 39-mile-per-hour or greater winds, you can see them here, obviously very likely, more than likely, along Florida, where we'll have this as a Category 2 or 3 storm. But those chances are fairly constant across portions of southern Georgia and into southern portions of South Carolina, Savannah, Georgia, Charleston, South Carolina. You're definitely going to be looking at impacts here with a tropical storm and tropical storm force winds. The chances of seeing those winds does kind of die down both as you go further inland and as you make your way further north into North Carolina. But the thing we all really need to keep an eye on is the amount of rain that is going to come with this storm. So if you take a look at this forecast map, those oranges, those yellows that we're seeing on the map across portions of Augusta, Georgia, Columbia, South Carolina, even maybe into Pinehurst, North Carolina, over towards Hatteras, kind of a line right there you see setting up, kind of a band, if you can think of all those places I just mentioned, kind of connecting a dot right there. We're going to see 6, 8, maybe even a little bit more localized heavy rain associated with that storm's kind of northern, northeast corner as it makes its way through. Everyone there on the northern side of that storm is going to be really eligible for some of these stronger setups of that thick tropical moisture. I'll show that to you in just a few minutes. You'll notice a lot of the heavier rain over the course of the last few days, that forecast has moved a little bit further inland, a little less rain than we were telling you for Savannah, Georgia or Charleston just the other day, but there are still some serious threats along that coast for coastal flooding and also flash flood. I'll show you the storm surge that we expect in just a moment, but notice we got a red strip here on our flash flood guidance. I'll paint a picture for you if you're listening to our audio podcast, but all the way from Tallahassee, Florida, where this storm could come ashore, stretching across Georgia into South Carolina, and almost all the way into the Charlotte metro area, say maybe Monroe, North Carolina, the Union County, North Carolina area. We do have a very high risk of seeing some flash flooding from the storm as we look at the 3-day guidance here from the Weather Prediction Center. Medium risk extends across much of the remaining areas of North Carolina, South Carolina, including both the coast and the mountains, where we need to think about the terrain and the possibility of landslides. So as you can see, most of the Carolinas is in play with this storm, whether whether it be from heavy rain, from winds, or storm surge along the coast. So the best storm surge guidance we have right now, maybe 2 to 4 feet across portions of South Carolina that also extend along the Georgia coast. Little lesser amounts, maybe 1 to 3 as you make your way closer to that Myrtle Beach over into Wilmington. Maybe Beaufort Inlet back in that portion of North Carolina could still see 2 to 4 inches, feet that is, between there and Drum Inlet. Lesser amounts as you make your way along the Outer Banks. But all of those places, right, that is at least a foot, maybe up to 4 feet of storm surge associated with this storm all along the Carolina coast as we look through the rest of the week. So here it is, the latest HRR model run. This is essentially what on TV you would see as the future cast. And you can see here, as we look through Wednesday, we're looking at a landfall possibly of a major hurricane there in the Big Bend of Florida. Some of this is still subject to change, so don't take this as Bible just yet, but you can see that center of circulation will be over portions of the southeast Georgia area. And then right about here, let me take it back one frame. This is 8 o'clock on Wednesday. You'll notice the time at the top is in Zulu. It's like UTC or GMT for the globe. So 0Z on Thursday is 8 p.m. Eastern time, Wednesday. And you can see that that center of circulation will be flirting with the Georgia line. That center of circulation somewhere in the Savannah, Georgia area. You can see lots of moisture out ahead of that storm, some trailing back behind it, but lots of moisture. At this point, it's going to be raining across much of the Carolinas. And then that is what will continue to trek overnight into Thursday morning across the Carolinas. So whether you're in Charlotte or you're in Charleston, you're going to see heavy rains associated with this. Let me slide this over and play this again one more time for you so you can kind of rewind. Here we go. So just after landfall, as we make our way here through Wednesday, it's still now Wednesday night. Here comes about that midnight time frame, heavy rain moving across the Carolinas. You could be waking up on Thursday morning to find roads flooded, power outages down, and you might want that NOAA weather radio ready to go in your bedroom in case you need to be woken up in the middle of the night for the possibility of some severe thunderstorm warnings or even some tornado warnings. But again, I think the biggest threat with this is going to be floods and rain. The governor of North Carolina, the governor of South Carolina have both declared disaster areas ahead of the storm. That allows them to free up some resources and some funding before, during, and after the storm. Stay with the Carolina Weather Group. We will have updates on the storm, including streaming live on our YouTube channel, our Carolina Weather Net, that brings you live radar, sky cams, and the latest warnings from the National Weather Service so that you can have multiple ways to receive warnings. We hope you don't rely just on us. We hope you don't rely just on one other thing. Have multiple ways to receive warnings, especially since this is going to be an overnight event for the Carolinas again from Wednesday night into Thursday. I'm James Brierton. Thanks for trusting me and joining me for this update here on the Carolina Weather Group. Our thoughts are with everyone in Florida who are bearing down this hurricane tonight, and we'll keep you updated as the storm moves through the Carolinas over the course of the next few days. Stay safe. Talk to you again real soon.